So tonight I did something different. I wanted to give a full set of skills that someone could take and really use. What I use is a process of helping you attach to your own self. So the subject matter tonight is emotional intelligence. Anybody here ever read anything about emotional intelligence? It happens to be the catchword of today's training for coaches, for everything. So right off the bat, anybody have any problem emotionally when they're around their horses? Maybe get nervous or have any processing? So we want to think about the emotional intelligence of who we are as far as our emotions. We're born with an IQ, and they say that really never changes. You can be smart, you can study, you can do all kinds of things. Then we know we have emotions. What creates our emotions? Are we born with how we respond to everything? Actually, we're not. So you're going to learn about that. So we know that it's a factor. The emotional status of how we function is involved and it evolves around your performance because you respond to what? Your environment. So what we want to talk about is see what it has to do with you as an equestrian. But we want to teach you a couple tools. One I use is hypnosis. What is hypnosis? You go in and out of it all the time. Anybody in this room ever worry?
Compulsively.
You're hypnotizing yourself. You make a mountain out of a molehill. So you hear the same thing over and over again. What I teach you is that I am a facilitator to help you make molehills out of mountains, the same thing you're doing. And is everybody hypnotizable? You have to be able to follow instructions. A little bit of an IQ that can follow instructions. Everybody's hypnotizable because you go in and out of it all the time. Ever driven somewhere and you got there and go, oh, I'm here? You are road hypnosis. So it's a word I choose to use because that's what it really is. You can hear it being told as guided meditation, guided imagery is the same thing. Exact same thing. Close your eyes and imagine blah, 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 blah. Same thing. But we learn different tools. So we know that hypnosis is a tool that I'm going to teach you about and give you some hypnosis sessions to take home. The other part of what we do, we have to know about are the natural laws of the mind. What are the natural laws of the mind? You are what you think. A thought creates a physical reaction. You ever had a thought and cried? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a thought and laughed? Have you ever had a thought and got nervous on the horse when you went down center line? Mm-hmm. That's the whole natural way the brain functions. The third natural law is the most important thing you'll walk out of here tonight. The imagination is stronger than knowledge. Do you know why that's so true? Have you ever known you know the test? You know how to ride a horse, and you get worried about riding your horse? Does someone just take your skill away from you? And you just automatically forgot how to make a half pass? No. It is the imagination creates the fear and the anxiety attached to something that affects you when you get on the saddle. So we rewire that thought process. So the natural laws of the mind are a functionability of us as a human being. There's another technique which you might have heard a lot of people use. I teach about it, I write about it, and so does Jane Savoya. NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. What is NLP? The neurological language of the program of how you function. So NLP is the process of the conscious and the unconscious and the senses attached to the nervous system. I want you to think about your brain. Out here, when you see something, when you see, feel, taste, or hear something, it's neutral until it goes into your brain of your core operating system. Your core operating system has your values, your beliefs, your languages, whether you speak 1 or 2 or 5 or languages. Your memories. Your memories are stored in a way that the brain has associated to remember something. Your decision-making process. How do you make decisions? Do you make them like your mother did? Was your mother a worrywart? Are you a worrywart? Hey, it's learned behavior. Bruce Lipton does all these studies and proven we're not just our DNA structure, we are more learned behavior than the DNA structure. Science has proven that. Oh, you're just like your dad. What's going to happen then? You're going to start mimicking, mirroring, and matching your dad. Therefore, you are creating the gene pool of believing that, then you become more of it. Time coding. Time coding to me is huge because it's what we are taught as we grow up. School, maybe college, marriage, maybe children, retirement, what all the ages are kind of programmed into our brain to what we're going to be doing at a certain time. And when we go against that time coding, we get agitated, we get anxiety, and it's like fingernails on chalkboard. So knowing our time coding helps us figure out what can be a core system that's affecting us in our life. Meta programs. Our meta programs are really our programs of how to do things. Like stopping at a red light, wearing clothes to leave the house. All these programs, think of how many programs we function by. Somebody taught you to walk in a room with chairs and go sit down in it. And there's no sign in here that says go sit down in a chair. Y'all came and sat down, didn't you? So it's programs. We are programmed human beings by habitual patterns. 97% of what we do every day is by habit. That's all it is. So we have our meta program. So this information that's neutral here comes into see, hear, smell, taste, or feel. And it goes into here, and we have filter systems. Either it gets deleted, distorted, or generalized. Do you think anything of stress at a horse show is ever distorted? It is. Then you get an internal representation, which causes a state and a physical reaction, which gives you your behavior. All of this happens in a nanosecond of time. Nano. One thought causes a physical reaction. What happens when you're stressed and you have anxiety and worry, it impacts your ability to focus, impacts your ability to learn, it impacts your relationships, and impacts your performance. So as I'm talking tonight, I want you to know this is the core operating system because we want to move into what happens to us emotionally. What is EQ, the cycle? What is a burnout trap? This is a really good illustration. If unconsciously, subconsciously, you have anger, or you have pain, or you have exhaustion, these are an emotional process that happens into our subconscious mind when we get in these states. Not getting enough sleep, if something angers us all the time. I'm going over this because right now I get a lot in my chair of a tremendous amount of anger of what's happening in our world. And it's affecting every facet of everybody's life. Pain. If someone has an injury or has pain, it's an ongoing process that affects us emotionally. Exhaustion. If someone's not getting enough sleep and they can't do a sleeping pill or they haven't learned to sleep with the sound of my voice, what happens is it's an overall reaction which causes an overreaction. Have you ever overreacted when you've been upset? Have you ever overreacted when a simple little thing happened and it really was a simple little thing? So what we learn about this is that we want to become aware, and what they're using as this catchphrase, emotional intelligence, is so we become self-aware. We become self-managed. Social awareness. Does all this affect you socially? Ever walked into a horse show and you saw somebody you didn't like and all of a sudden your gut's rumbling? Boy, that person just got a remote control with your name on it and they're pushing your buttons. Wow! Isn't that amazing? We allow other people to do that to us? Think about it. What do? With this information, you learn self-management. Has anybody ever taught you how to manage your own emotions? Well, technically, we're taught to swallow it and shut up. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. What if I really feel bad about something and I want to say something about it? Is it appropriate to tell somebody off? No. Not too many people like it much, but anyway. So it's the ability to understand self and then go one more level with this with me. Who's it hurting the most? Them or you? You learn to manage your own emotions so you let go. That gives you the ability to manage your relationships. We're all involved in relationships. Whether it's you're dating somebody, whether you're taking lessons, whether you're showing, whether you go to a job, whether you're on a committee, whatever you do. We all have to deal with emotions. I deal with a lot of emotions. I buy Kleenex by the case. Because everybody feels bad, they're crying, and I'm like, well, I buy it by the case here. Why do I do that? Because it's okay to have emotions. I like emotion, but I like to teach people what they need to do with them. And this, to me, is a great observation of how somebody created a system to be aware. So self-awareness is the ability to accurately recognize your emotions and as they happen, understand the general tendencies for responding to different people and situations. Why do I feel this way? Why is this bothering me? If it's neutral when I first saw it, what in my core operating system is having an effect on me? I want to know. Because I'm pretty neutral. I sit in my chair. I cannot be judgmental. I cannot be jealous. The two major problems in human nature today, and this is written about, this is not Laura King's opinion, this is learned information, are judgmentalness and jealousy. It creates a dialogue of this information that has cause and effect beyond the truth. The truth. So when we become self-aware, why are we responding to something negative? I always laugh in my office here in Lake Worth. I have a lot of horses. A bronze horse, a painting of me jumping a horse, another horse, cover my book horse. You know, there are a lot of horses when you sit down in my chair. If somebody walks in my office and has the fear of horses, are they going to have anxiety just sitting there? Yeah. Just because the subconscious mind, peripheral vision, processing will be picking it up and having an internal process to the body and system. So becoming self-aware while they're feeling that way, we can neutralize the fear of the horse if they need it to be. But awareness is number one. Then let's go one more step with it. When we have awareness, what do we need to do with it? Self-management. Do you know how to manage your own emotions? Besides stuffing them? Besides having an upset stomach, or besides getting a headache or a migraine, besides all those are self-managements, but they're not productive, are they? Personally, I don't like a stomach ache, and gosh forbid, I do not like a headache. So the mindset is understanding the cause and effect of why. So your self-management is using the awareness of the emotions to choose what to say, to do, to positively direct your behavior. Change the behavior. Social awareness is the self-awareness, the self-management, and the social awareness as you relate to other people in specific purposes and in certain situations. Why would that bother you in certain situations? Well, we have labels, guys. Performance anxiety. We label everything, don't we? Oh, I'm ADHD. Oh, I'm COPD. We got everything. We label everything. I grew up with a learning disability. I'm dyslexic. I didn't know it was a bad thing because my mother never told me it was a bad thing. But then it became difficult in school. I handled it. I got through school. And as I got older, and I kind of went back to school and became a hypnotherapist 18 years ago. This was not my profession. I did not grow up thinking I'd be a hypnotist. But as some of y'all already know, when I was in my mid-20s, I had a really bad, difficult life, and I had depression. Depression is something that it can be a chemical imbalance, it can be an environmental depression, it can be all kinds of things. I was labeled with everything. I think I have a label, I was depressed, and I was bipolar. I mean, there's a long list of those names they gave me. So I also had a suicide issue. So my third attempt at suicide, my mother decided that Palm Beach Institute and the drugs weren't working. So my mother sought out a hypnotist back in the 70s. Hypnosis saved my life. I stand here for one reason, because somebody up there has me on a mission to help as many people as I can help. Learning a tool. It's not about me. I'm only a facilitator. Because we need to learn how our brains work. And they work because God gave us these brains to use. We just need to learn a little bit about them. I want you to think of your brain like a tree trunk. There's a ring of every year of your life. Here's birth. Out here in all this is your core operating system in life. So technically, let's say you're standing right out here in this dark brown, and you have a thought. Your thought just doesn't think right this second. It goes ding, 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 and pulls out information from your hard drive, right? Like the search engine on the screen of your monitor. If those stories stink or have bad reflections in your brain, what is going to come out to the forefront is what? Bad reflections. Stress, anxiety, worry, a reaction. Then you have the reaction and bring that reaction to this moment. Then when it's attached to this moment, I don't feel very good in this moment because I'm reacting to some of this. So what I like to teach is in hypnosis we do the processing to get rid of whatever's wrong back here, create the now where the past is behind you, only propel you forward, and now is how I choose to be in control of my emotions. Then we time code the future to how you continue to do it by anchoring in the new responses. Let's say every time you sit in the saddle, you breathe. You always breathe every time you sit in the saddle. Now, isn't that a great thought? If you actually had programmed in your brain that every time, all the time, you sit in the saddle and breathing, would you ride better? I guarantee it on my life. So this is the reaction of the process, right? So when you learn that with emotional management, you learn how to attach that. So what I gave you in this handout are some techniques that you can do on your own. One of them is the technique of recognizing your feelings. When you have a feeling, to reflect on your use of the emotions. Identify your own emotions and your reactions. Identify it. Once you identify it, you become mindful of it. Mindfulness is a whole thing out there that they're using, so they don't use the word hypnosis. Being mindful of your thoughts is being aware. When you become aware, you defuse it some. You're not giving it ownership. You're not giving it space and time in your life. That makes sense? Be the observant. Overall, your emotional state, see the self reflected. Look at yourself and see how it looks, what you're reacting to and how you're reacting. And then write it down what you learned. There's something very interesting about writing this down. When you see it, you diffuse it some, especially if you're a visual person, whether you're kinesthetic, auditory, or visual. That's very important. I'm not teaching about that tonight, but especially for equestrians, if you're a visual person and your trainer's yelling at you to do something, you're not getting it, it's because you're not seeing it. So you can say, stop, can you show me please? I'm a show me person. If you're a visual person and someone's always giving you instructions, I have this with kids all the time. write it down. That's simple. It is that simple. So if it's that simple, can we go in and find out why we're feeling differently when we go to the showgrounds? When we go to take a new lesson with a new trainer, or we take a clinic, or whatever the it is. Whatever the it is. It's experiencing it to know, why am I responding? Why am I having that reaction? Then we can take and reprogram it. We reduce the negative emotions. How can you stop a negative thought? Stop negative personalization. Avoid personalizing others' behaviors. So you take on other behaviors, like the judge ranked me lower because she doesn't like my horse. You take on that judgment. Then you select to avoid circumstances that trigger unwanted emotions. Do you ever stay away from certain circumstances because you don't like how you feel? Sometimes I get people that are so nervous about showing. I go, why do you show? Oh, I love my horse and it's fun. Oh, it's fun? You're throwing up in the porta potty before you go in the ring? That sounds like a lot of fun to me. I don't know about y'all. Think about it. You show because you love your horses, you like being and producing something of skill. So if the negative emotions, it's avoid the circumstances that trigger it, but if you want to do it, you've got to neutralize that reaction, don't you? You've got to neutralize that reaction. So to change the response is what we're going to go into 3 different ways, okay, 4 different ways. Is directing your thought to something that calms you when you're having that thought. Like right now, if you're having that negative thought, think of something that really makes you feel good. So I teach people to put it on your cell phone, put something on your screen that makes you feel good. So on my screen, I have the little patio behind my condo and Tryon. It just makes me feel good. It just makes me feel good. So whenever I pick up my phone, a natural response to my brain is a feel-good feeling because when I sit and do phone sessions there, I look at that all day long and just breathe. So when I'm not there, why can't I use it now? Tell people if they're at an office and they a lot of stress, they always put a picture of something that they're looking forward to on their desk. And then automatically, subconsciously, they're going to reap the benefits of that. So it's becoming aware of that and change the response while you're doing it. Play music that relaxes you. Remember this. One of the things that really affects us is what we do not know that we're having a reaction to. I'm going to give you this metaphor. It's kind of a funny one. In our bathroom, I get in and take a shower. I like to take a shower in quiet. As soon as my husband walks in, he turns the radio on. And guess what he's playing? Oldies. And he gets in the shower, he's singing, he's happy, and I'm over there brushing my hair, and I'm going, God, I feel like garbage, I feel like garbage. I'm going, oh, that song. And I turned to him, I go, why do you like to listen to the oldies? He says, I have such happy memories. I go, well, I guess yours didn't suck as bad as mine do. They make me feel horrible. And I walked out of the bathroom. Music with words, if they don't bring back good memories, create the memory of this that happened when it happened and bring it to now. I don't like that. I listen to a lot of Kenny G because there are no words. So I put music on that makes me feel good. There's some really sad songs out there. Oh my God. There's one exercise before I teach you cancel and love it. Blow the emotion away. Find a quiet place, breathe deeply, visualize the emotion, imagine it in your hand, whatever it looks like, whatever caused it. Sometimes I even make it bigger than the room, then shrink it down to about an inch, and blow it away. Guess what the brain will do? It'll blow it away. If you practice that, it starts really implementing that unconscious mind's ability to release it. Stay cool and manage your stress. These are techniques to manage your stress and know where they're coming from. Know what it's from, what it's about. Go easy on yourself. I have a question. How many people looked at the mirror this morning and said, oh my God, you look fabulous. I love every part of you, and you're going to have an awesome day. Shoot. Think about it. Would you say what you say to yourself to your best friend? I hope not. We are so hard on ourselves. You know, accept the things that won't always be perfect. Finding self-acceptance. Starting with that emotional mindset of accepting what is. Because you cannot control everything. So knowing that oneness with self, who else are going to be one with? And finding that place of stop criticizing or being judgmental, even of self. Even of self. And using these tools and techniques, breathing techniques. How many people have ever done yoga for breathing techniques? How many people have taken breathing techniques? Breathe. Everybody holds their breath all the time. All the time. All the time. So breathing, practice the breathing. I set up these programs where I teach people when you ride, when you're practicing a test, when you're reading a test, practice breathing while you're practicing it. Breathe when you're reading the test. Breathe when you're watching somebody do the test. Tell yourself you're breathing. And find that mindset and then practice the 5 count. Having an actionary word to get rid of the thought that you don't want. Cancel's one I use. People like delete, erase. Sometimes I'll be driving down the road and you'll see me erasing. Erase the thought if you don't like it. When you're thinking a negative thought, say the word cancel, replace it with a positive, or think of a purple elephant. What's a purple elephant? Absolutely nothing. What's a purple elephant? Absolutely nothing. But it's a change of thought. A change of thought. Remember that. Be proactive, not reactive. Isn't that a thought? What being proactive means? Facing difficult mistakes. What do you focus on when you finish a test in a horse show? No. All the good things you did? No. Or all the mistakes you made? And then you focus on the mistakes you made and you keep making them. See the mistake, cancel it, think of doing it correctly, and move on. So if we know that we focus on our mistakes, how can we change that? How can we change that? Focus on the good things that you're doing. And know the mistake, cancel it, and see the transition of doing it the correct way. I'm not into the perfect word. I guess you'd figure that out because I wrote about perfect enough. If you do every movement correctly, you're definitely going to get 100, aren't you? Isn't that the way you score, huh? I've never seen any profession or anything where you're scored and you can't even hit the top one. But that's the way it is. So you look at your 10 movements and you want to do each one as correctly as you possibly can with your unconscious competence and your unconscious confidence. Then you have the opportunity to getting closer to 100. Is that correct? There's thousands of people out there that are getting hundreds all the time, aren't there? No. But you have to focus on what each score is that's better and better and better. Then you get a higher results, don't you? So it's not focusing, it's being proactive and focusing on what the correct movement is. The best key here, the best little ditty I can give you with this one, if you have a movement you're working on, practice going to bed, watching it on YouTube the correct way. It's great. I do it when I hypnotize people, and I've had people come back and say, somebody accused me of looking just like so-and-so, and that's who my role model was when you were hypnotizing me. I go, it happens all the time. So when we realize this, we have to admit it and accept responsibility versus blaming somebody else. You have to avoid blaming others. Now, it sounds like a strange thing to say about writing, but I get it all the time. I do it that way because that person taught me that way. Or I do it that way because that's the way that person does it. How about just seeing how you want to do it? And then focusing on your outcome and admit it to yourself what that means. And then you take what you admit and you allow yourself to go to the next level of your training. Learn from it. Hiccups, I don't call them problems. Hiccups happen. And what are we supposed to do with our hiccups? We're supposed to learn from them. What was your strength? What was your weakness? What can you do to improve it? That is emotionally taking it apart and finding a way to correct it. And I have to say this, write it down. You'll be amazed at the transformation that you'll have. Maintain a positive view about it. Have you ever thought doing a dressage test as show was easy? Start telling yourself it is. Guess what will happen? It gets easier and easier. Because we want you to bounce back from your mistakes. We want you to learn from them, rewrite the script, and do them and take the next step to realize that we're all human. And we have to know that you have to forgive yourself instead of beat yourself up. You ever thought about forgiving yourself? You have to, because it's learned behavior. If it's learned behavior, you can relearn it and learn from why the mistake happened and how the mistake happened. And then you want to go the next step to fix it. If you can fix it, you make it right. If you're unkind to yourself, apologize to yourself. Learn to avoid making the mistake again. Create a positive habit of how you want to do it. And the YouTube videos have been the best thing I've ever discovered to help people's performance. But make sure you watch a correct one. A correct one. That's important. That's very important. How can this be done differently with a positive outcome? Practice in your mind the correct way of doing it. Practice that. Take the opportunity to believe that anything and everything is possible. If you have a dream or you have an outcome that you want to achieve, please allow yourself to trust that. Yes, I'm a hypnotherapist, but when I became a hypnotherapist, it was not my life mission. My life mission was my kids were going to college and I would go to California and study with my mentor, the lady who saved my life 40 years ago. Well, she passed away 18 years ago, and I came home from her funeral with all of her material. She was brilliant. She had a couple PhDs in how the brain functions, and she helped thousands and thousands of people. And so I said to my husband, what am I doing the next 50 years of my life? Because I thought I would be going to help her, because I'm not an upfront person. I'm the person that did all the auction stuff and stayed in the background. I couldn't even speak to my 9-year-old Girl Scout troop. I'm probably the only Girl Scout leader that hired a co-leader to speak. So when my husband said, you do it, I went, time out. There's no way I'm going to get up and speak in front of people. There is no way I'm going to go in a room and hypnotize somebody, because that was just not a possibility. And I didn't like my voice recorded. I wouldn't even do the phone answer machine. So I laughed at him. He said, well, if hypnosis really works, you can be hypnotized to do it. And I went, oh, good point. Hence, I went to school. My first day of internship, I'm the one who had the panic attack. So my teacher kept me after school and hypnotized me. The next day, I hypnotized 5 people in a row, and I haven't stopped since. I do practice full-time because I like helping people find happiness. In whatever realm, whatever processor, whatever you need to do. We do work with everything. My daughter is with me. I have her name on everything. She practices with me also. And it's because you can help anxiety, stress, worry, fear, depression, addictions, whatever there is, you can Google it and find out. In the health industry, we know that using hypnosis, you take less anesthesia and you heal twice as fast. During different treatments, if you listen to the treatment or the immune system, you can build a healthier body. And that's proven scientifically. So that's the reason I do this. The other reason is it's fun to perform better. It's fun to, help people perform. And people go, I don't watch Facebook anymore. I love to go see what people are doing. I like to see who's winning and who I just hypnotized in what part of the world, where they are. This year I've been invited to speak and to work with all the dressage Olympic team. So it's because we've always used sports psychology. So I'm technically a sports psychologist, but I have something in my back pocket that works really well. One is called hypnosis and the other is called NLP. When we put those together, it seems to be just a winning combination of helping a person achieve what they want to achieve. You have to want to do it first. The second part of the equation is along the way, you get your own self-help to feel better, to sleep better, to do whatever you need to better. Then the other part of it is learning the science of it. So the main thing I want you to know tonight, your subconscious mind doesn't hear don't or not. If I say, don't think about the black horse, what are you thinking about? Black horse. So when you're riding and you're doing things, and you say, I'm not going to do that, assume you're going to do it, or you say, don't do that, or a trainer says, don't miss your lead change, and you miss your lead change, know that 88% of your brain heard, miss the lead change. I'm not telling you to be disrespectful to trainers, but in your own head, go cancel. I always get my lead change. Any questions? Anybody have any curiosities or ideas or thoughts of what it's about?